Welcome to the Nordic Football Podcast. I'm Steve Wiss, and we've got a very interesting show lined up today. We're going to be joined by Henry at Football in DK. He's been out there in Denmark itself watching a few matches, so he's going to report back to us. I'm going to be talking about Eliteserien matters with Jonathan, and then, of course, we'll move on to some Allsvenskan stuff as well, in addition to catching up to the European games. We're actually going to start, though, with a small interview that Henry had out there in Denmark with Norwegian wonderkid Andreas Schjelderup, who they've had a great start to the season there at FC Nordjaelland. Henry was at the game against Viborg. He caught up with him afterwards, and this is what he had to say.
Obviously, you're only 18. This is your third season at Nordjaelland. Are you starting to feel that even though you're young, you're one of the leaders out there on the pitch?
I don't really know. It's a difficult question, but I tried to go to the pitch and show my trying to take action on the pitch and try to do my best and try to lead the team, of course, to a victory every game, because that's what I want and what the team wants is to win every game.
Fantastic. And you personally having a fantastic season. The team's won 4 in 4. You've scored 3 goals. What's the secret to that? Did you do something over pre-season? Is it a tactical change? What's been behind that good fortune?
No, I really think the team just got to know each other much more now. We know each other personally and how we play on the pitch. I think last season there was in the starting process of that, but now I think every player know how each player plays, and then it's easy for us to go on the pitch and perform.
Fantastic, man. And also there's a new surface out on the pitch. How much do you feel that as a player?
I feel it's better than the last one, but I'm still getting a little bit used to it because the green small they're a little bit too much, I think. So the ball is kind of floating on the pitch, but it's something me and the boys had to get used to.
And do you find the pace on the artificial pitches faster than on a grass pitch?
It really depends on which grass pitch it is. If it's a Camp Nou or something like that, then of course the ball will go faster. But the ball of course will move a little bit faster in average on the artificial pitch. But so it's good, but a grass pitch of course is the best.
And obviously with 4 wins, your ambitions for the season must be growing. Like as a team, what's your where do you want to get to this season?
We don't really think about that much. We take game for game and focus on that and try and win every game. And just really focus on that, and then we'll see after the season where we finish, but hopefully quite high.
Fantastic. And today it looked like you were starting in a more sort of attacking midfield role and then moved to the left. You've played a number of positions since you've been here. Do you have a favourite position? Do you see like your long-term future in one position or another?
Yeah, I prefer this position today. Play as a kind of offensive midfielder in the left half space. That's my favorite position, of course. So to be able to play that today, I feel like in the first half I could do much more than in a false 9 position.
And do you have a player who plays that position who you've like modelled your game on in the past, or are you just sort of blazing your own trail?
Yeah, when I grew up as a Liverpool fan, and then watching Coutinho in that role really inspired me, and trying to take things from him from back then and also now, and look up to a lot of players and watch a lot of football.
Fantastic. And in terms of the national team, Norway obviously have a sort of golden generation at the moment. Are you looking forward to sort of being part of the national team setup in the future? Yeah,
of course. That's what I hope for, and that's what I work hard for every day to be able to play for the Norway first team. And it's so many great players right now coming up, and I think the upcoming years is going to be quite bright for Norway.
Fantastic. Well, listen, man, it's been a real pleasure watching you play this season and in previous seasons, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And he's joining me now, Henry, at Football in DK, back from his travels to Denmark. How was it? How was it, mate? I bet you had a great time out there.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, when I was sort of furiously hitting refresh over the summer on the official website to sort of see the fixtures, and I was waiting to see if they fell kindly over a weekend where I could get 2 games in, and this looked like the one with the Copenhagen derby and with Lyngby, or as I'm constantly reminded, the Danish pronunciation is Lyngby. I believe. So I'll try and do justice to it. But with those two playing over the same weekend, that's quite an easy trip from Copenhagen. It's only about 10 minutes north. So I picked that one. And then, as fortune would have it, the Nordjaelland game got moved to the Saturday because of because of Viborg's exploits in the Conference League. So it meant that I had the potential for 3 games in 3 days.
Nordjaelland, Viborg. We've just heard the interview there that you did with Andreas Schjelderup at the end of the match. And for anyone who wants to hear a little bit more about him, then just check back at one of our previous episodes, a season preview where he was in the 10 to watch. But I know you've been really impressed with this guy, the so-called Norwegian wonderkid. And he just continues to go from strength to strength. He's had an amazing start to the season. What was it like seeing him in the flesh?
Yeah, I mean, on the pitch, he was all action and really sort of I kind of hinted at it in one of the questions, but it does feel like he's becoming one of the leaders out on the pitch. You know, this is his 3rd season in the Super League already. He's got 3 goals and an assist from his first 4 games, so he's really producing the goods. And yeah, he just looks fantastic. And you know, talking to him, I got a real sense that he's just got such a fantastic attitude, so professional, seems so mature as a player and as a person. And yeah, it was a real pleasure to meet him in person.
Yeah, I must say he comes across as a really confident young man, mature but very thoughtful, and you can see why a lot of people have been indeed raving about him. So, just your general overall thoughts from the Nordjaelland game. What was it like? The atmosphere, was it what you expected?
So Nordjaelland are a very new club, and I think get bit of a hard time from supporters of much older teams, you know, because they're still building a fan culture there. But I really enjoyed it. The stadium it was my first time watching a professional game on artificial turf. I've obviously watched plenty of 7-a-side games on Astro, but no, first time watching it there. And you know, they've just laid a new surface down, so it looks perfect. It plays very, very fast. I wasn't quite prepared for the fact that they were going to be watering an artificial pitch. So I was standing right on the touchline about an hour before kickoff, and this giant jet of water, you know, shot up like a Dalek from underneath the turf and sprayed me. So I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, it was you know, they play a very attractive brand of football. Had a fantastic view from the press section opposite the dugout. So I really enjoyed that game, and I think if I go back, I'd love to see them in action again, because I really buy into what they're doing, and I really like watching them play.
Now, on the Friday night, you were at the Midtjylland game, Lingbo, as we're going to call them now, Lingbo against Midtjylland, and I saw you tweeting. In fact, no, it wasn't a tweet. I think you actually messaged me on the old WhatsApp chat, and he said, this game's done. It's a question of how many, because at halftime, Midtjylland were 3-0 up. My old mate, sorry, Cabba getting on the score sheet, interestingly enough. But then second half, Lingbo come back and 3-3 draw. An absolutely wild game for you there.
Yeah, it was actually 3-1 at halftime, and that goal just before the break was one of those ones where you think, you know, is that just going to be enough to give the manager a sort of a hook at the halftime team talk to get the team energized? And I mean, to start with, what a fantastic experience going to that stadium. It's such a community club, and you know, it's the sun was shining. It was Friday. There were lots of families there, lots of, you know, friends meeting up after work. The stadium was very full. I spoke to someone from the club, and he said they were expecting maybe 3,500 people, and in actual fact, over 5,000 showed up. So there was big anticipation. But you could sense the kind of collective sighs when after 15 minutes it was 2-0, and Midtjylland just looked like they'd really hit the ground running. You know, Anders Dreyer is just unplayable on his day, and some of his movement was top draw. And when he smashed in the third goal, it looked like, yeah, this is going to be a rout. And I think the crowd were almost resigned to that at that point. But then when that first goal went in for Lingbo, a lovely sort of flicked header into the far corner, you did sense that if they can start the second half strong, they'd come back into it, and sure enough they did. And I don't know if you've seen the equalizer, but the goal to make it 3-3 by Sava Magnusson. It was absolutely fantastic. It was a sort of, I can't remember if it was a throw on or a cross, but the ball kind of sat up in the box, and it was one of those ones where you have to jump in the air in order to hit it, and most of the time that goes straight into row Z, or at the Lyngby Stadium it would probably go onto the training pitches, which are situated just behind the stadium. But no, it went right in the top corner, and they had a chance to even win it at the end. Kastrup hit the bar, in fact had a shot that was tipped onto the bar, so could have ended up with all 3 points. And at the end you could really see Midtjylland looked dejected by that.
Now, I think this was it your second time you've been to Denmark, Henry, or third?
Fourth time I've been to Denmark, but third time to watch football.
Yeah. Now, what's your sort of general advice to anyone listening here who may be thinking about going out there to watch some football, or even just to visit the country? In general, Copenhagen is a very popular city to go to. What are your general thoughts of the country, the traveling around it? How easy is that? What's the food like? Drinks, good price? Or, just in general, what are your thoughts on Denmark as a country?
I mean, I absolutely love it. I love Copenhagen as a place. It's, one of my favorite cities for sure. One piece of advice I would give people is, if they're going to stay in Copenhagen, try and find a hotel near Vesterport or Norreport, because both of those are very well connected. I think I could travel from those stations to both Farum, where Nordjaelland are, and Lyngby. So if you're there, your travel to the sort of outskirts of Copenhagen is going to be much easier. As a place to watch football, it's absolutely fantastic. People talk about Denmark being an expensive country. I can assure you the football isn't. I think tickets were in the region of sort of £10-15 for the first two games, and then we had arguably sort of best seats in the house for the derby, and I think they were about 65 quid each. So, drop in the ocean compared to Premier League prices. And in general, everyone is just so friendly and welcoming, and in my experience, really sort of eager to help. Help me get to games, help me understand more about it, and really just sort of welcoming and interested in the fact that I've got an interest in Danish football. So I would say to everyone, it feels like a really welcoming, fun place with a good football culture that is really rooted in community.
That sounds absolutely great out there. It really does. And £10 or £15 for some of the tickets. I mean, that wouldn't even get you a hot dog at the Emirates, would it? Probably.
Well, exactly.
But this Lyngby name, by the way, it just reminds me something out of an old program I used to watch with my kids called In the Night Garden. It feels like a name that should be in something like one of them kids' programs. Lyngby.
I feel that having gone there, I should make an effort to pronounce it properly. But yeah, that was cool. And on my website a few months ago, I did an interview with the kit man there, a guy called Lux, who's a bit of a local legend. And after the game, he invited me to the players' tunnel. We had arranged to do a shirt swap, so an Arsenal shirt for a Lyngby shirt, and he took me down to the kit room, and lots of the players were there, and we did the shirt swap, and it was very nice experience to sort of have a peek behind the curtain after a game.
Now, on the subject of your website, you were saying to me off air that you're preparing at least one major blog article for this trip in Denmark. Tell us a bit about where you can find, where can we find you on the socials? Where can we find this website?
So, the website is footballindenmark.com, and the Twitter is @footballindk. There's so much happened this weekend. Most good, some bad, involving one of my friends, but I'll give you chapter and verse on the website because it deserves a long read. So I'm in the process of writing that, and I'll be spamming your timelines as and when that's ready.
Very, very good indeed. Now, before we go, I suppose we better mention the Copenhagen derby, hadn't we? Just that small matter of that fixture. You were there at Parken for this big clash, a 4-1 win for FC Copenhagen against Brøndby. Pep Biel with a hat-trick. So this fixture, did it live up to your expectations? Because I know you were really excited about this one. with everything that goes surrounding this derby. What did you make of it?
Yeah, so I was at sort of fever pitch level of excitement for this, and the interesting thing is both teams were going into it with quite ropey form, so it was a bit harder to predict than it might have been before day one. But both teams had only managed one win from their opening three. I guess one of the big stories going into it was that Mohamed Daramy, previously of this parish, has returned to Copenhagen on loan for the season from Ajax, and there was much excitement when it was announced that he was going to be in the starting lineup. And I was having some beers with some of the supporters outside that I know, and one of them said that they'd heard whispers that the choreography was going to be the biggest for the past 6 or 7 years. So I was very excited for what we could see from the choreography. And of course, away fans were going to be there again. So the previous 2 derbies, away fans were banned. So there was the promise of noise from both ends of the stadium this time. Sure enough, the choreography was absolutely unbelievable. They sort of released from section 12, which is the sort of the big Copenhagen supporters stand behind the goal, this banner that was that featured a train track with a moving train on it. So there was a sort of banner over a banner with a train featuring these characters called the Olsen Banden, the Olsen Gang, which is a sort of a very famous Danish cartoon. And at the end of the banner was this sort of dark, derelict area that was obviously meant to represent Brøndby's neighborhood, and it had a big safe there which contained the trophy. So Brøndby had won the trophy, the league the previous season, and so this choreography was all about going to the Brøndby neighborhood and stealing back the trophy, as FC Copenhagen did last season, winning the league. So the train travels down the length of the choreography. When it gets to the end, big explosion, another banner comes down, and the 3 characters are there holding up the trophy. So it was a very elaborate bit of choreography, and really cool to see it up close. The Brøndby fans were very noisy at the start as well, and had their flags and flares, and so all of that promise of a kind of South American atmosphere was certainly there from the start.
And the Parken Stadium itself, it always, when I look at it on TV, it always seems like one of the real traditional stadiums worldwide, really, certainly within Europe. And it's about nearly 50,000, I think, isn't it, in the 40,000 range?
I think it's somewhere between 35 and 40. This was a sellout, and I think they announced it was 35 this time. But yeah, it's a fantastic stadium. I really love it. It's got lots of very unique features, like it's got a retractable roof. In one of the corners is the restaurant that has just been named the #1 restaurant in the world. So it's got 3-star Michelin restaurant sort of just tucked in there. So yeah, it's very strange, but I love it as a stadium because it's a sort of traditional 4-sided stadium, but the corners are all filled in, so you don't lose any of the noise through the sides, and has a very unique stand where the away fans are, that's sort of a sheer glass face above it. So it's very unique.
Yeah, it's not your sort of bog standard modern stadium design, is it? There's a lot of quirks to Parken. So I'm glad you had a great time out there, Henry. And what we are going to do, we're hoping to have you on the show next week for a more in-depth look at the league in general in Denmark. But I'm glad you had a great trip out there, and that you could share your experiences with us.
Absolutely. I don't know if it's worth just talking very briefly about the game itself.
Yes, of course. 4-1 win. 4-1 win. Hat-trick there for Pep Biel. I know you're a big fan of him. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was technically a perfect hat-trick. So left foot, right foot header. And cometh the derby, cometh Pep Biel. Last season 4 goals in 4 derbies, and he duly obliged again with a hat trick. And just none of the goals were necessarily worldies, but I think his movement and positioning and awareness is just so good that he gets into those positions where he can be dangerous. And to score a hat trick in a derby, I don't think that's been done for quite a while. That was fantastic, and that kind of came off the back of a couple of longer range goals by Rasmus Falk and Christian Kappis, the American midfielder for Brøndby. So yeah, really, really exciting game, lots of goals, and I mean, what more can you ask for from a first derby?
Yeah, absolutely. And is it a sort of fixture you'll be looking to go back to again?
Absolutely, yeah. And as will become apparent, I think we owe it to one of our friends to bring him back because he wasn't able to make it this time. So yeah, I'll certainly be back, and potentially in the spring.
Well, thanks for your time as ever, Henry. And thanks for the great content, getting us a nice interview there with Schjelderup. And also, there is an interview that Henry did with Philadelphia Union striker, ex-Golden Boot winner in the Superliga, Mikael Ure. And that is on the YouTube channel right now. It's going to be added to next week's main episode as well for those who are listening on Apple, things like that. But you can access it on the YouTube channel for those who are interested. Early access there. So thanks again, Henry, and glad you had a good time up there.
Cool. Cheers, Steve. And yeah, I'll speak to you on the next one.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Nordic Football Podcast. I'm Steve Wiss, and I'm with Jonathan Verdugba here. Jonathan, how are you doing, my old friend?
Hello, and welcome to the Nordic Football Podcast. I'm good, Steve. Hello to everyone listening. How are you this week?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Looking forward to this sort of heat wave in the UK now. Again, I do like a bit of sun. I don't get enough of it. But yeah, I'm doing fine in general. Another good week for us in the weekend preview show, which I've got to highlight. 4 out of 5 winners. We're in some good form. Congrats on your winners that you had on that. And yeah, plenty of drama in the Eliteserien and Allsvenskan to talk about this episode. European results have been generally quite favourable for several of the teams that we discussed. So yeah, we're gonna start off with Eliteserien and kick on from there.
Yep, more winners on the books this week. Another great week on the weekend preview show. Somebody actually forgot to turn off the the paywall, so anyone who saw it for free, hope you enjoyed it and hope you got some value out of it yourself. You know, you got lucky this week if you're not a subscriber because it leaked on YouTube. But fair play. I hope you enjoyed it and it was a nice little preview. We're going to start this week in Norway, aren't we, Steve? And on last week's show, we had a few things we talked about. One of the things we talked about was Glimt and just their relentless form. I mean, just the 7 goals from them this weekend.
It's got a bit ridiculous, Jonathan. I mean, I'm just going to look now. Their last 5 results in all competitions, right? And it starts off here with them. They beat Jørg 5-0. Then they beat Linfield 8-0. Just a 2-1 win away at Ålesund, and then a 5-0 win against Zalgiris in the Champions League, and now a 7-0 win against Odd in the Eliteserien. Now, I've lost count here of how many goals they've scored in those 5 games. It's got to be bordering 20 plus, certainly close to 25, I think. I'm not sure. But incredible stuff from Bodø Glimt. They seem really back to their best. They've got a great zest about them right now. And they're just harassing teams like they kind of were when they were at the best last season and in the 2020 campaign. So, yeah, they're in a great phase. And it looks like they've got one foot in that final Champions League qualifying round already, and a fixture potentially against Dinamo Zagreb or Ludogorets for a place in the Champions League group stage proper. I think that's every possibility, surely.
I mean, how were they in this 7-0 win? I mean, there's no need I even ask. I mean, I guess they battered them. Very,
very good. This could have been 10. Not gonna lie, there was a lot of chances missed by Joe Mushiga, especially has been misfiring a bit recently for them. But he's going to score a glutton of goals in a match soon. But yeah, they were brilliant. Pellegrino is obviously such a key player for them. His quality, flair and class just leads them in these sort of games. He's for me probably been the best player in the league this season, to be honest. He's just an incredible talent for them. But Vettelson also had a field day in this game. He was superb. Racked up a huge number of fantasy points for his owners. But yeah, they're in a really good phase at the right now, Bodø Glimt. And Odd have lost players. That it was not a good time for them to be facing Bodø Glimt, but they were blown completely out the water. And yeah, like this team is very, very, very dangerous again.
Yeah, you said you're not even sure how many goals they've scored. I can tell you, I can tell the listener, they've scored 27 goals in their last 5 games. That is just absolutely outrageous. That's 5.4 goals per game average in the last 5 matches. I don't even really know what to say. I saw a tweet from Bodø. I saw a tweet from Bodø Glimt at the end of the last match. It was live on the pitch with Kjetil Knutsen, and he looked at the camera and he said, "This is Bodø Glimt." I mean, that's like, this is Sparta, isn't it? What 5.4 goals a game average, Steve? It's all just clicked into gear.
It really has, and something happened on that night at Linfield. Like I said, I think they were really irked about that. Oh, they got beat by a side that just parked the bus and did all that, and I think they just really worked hard to try and change it. I think they've been pretty damn good since the early summer break, to be honest with you. They've won 7 out of 8 elite games since that early summer break. So it's kind of been building up and bubbling up, and their goal scoring has returned. It wasn't there at the start of the season, but it seems to be there now. Maybe it's just some of the players needed a bit more time to get used to each other. They brought in Lars-Jørgen Salvesen now up front, who scored on his debut. It was a Champions League. He didn't actually manage to get one against Odd somehow, but he will come. He looks like a really good focal point for them up front, and he gives them another option, a different sort of dimension if they need it. Runar Espejord is scoring goals off the bench. They said that he seems to be the role for him now, this sort of super sub. And, if he's scoring goals from it, why not? It looks like Ola Solbakken might stay with Bodø Glimt now to the end of the season. That's what I've heard. He's injured right now, but when he comes back, he will add something else to them as well. So at the moment, things are going well. They've, they don't even have to really focus on the European second leg right now, but they're crushing it domestically. They're crushing it in Europe, and fair play.
Yeah, I know the transfer window's open. Are they looking to do any more business? I mean, just tell us about their new signing. Well,
they've lost Victor Boniface to a Belgian team, the one that Rangers are playing in the Champions League. I forget what they're called. Someone for nearly 2 million.
Yes, Union Saint-Gilloise.
That's them. Yeah, £2 million, and to be honest, there's a few people, certainly in the betting community that I know, who actually think Salvesen's an upgrade on Boniface. Boniface missed too many chances, I think, for people. Salvesen, I think he's seen as more reliable. But yeah, Lars-Jørgen Salvesen missed the entirety of last season with a cruciate ligament injury at Godset. 2020 campaign, he was pretty damn strong up there, and he started this season quite well. Displaced Fred Friday in the team. And it looked like he was going to go to Molde, but Bodø Glimt have hijacked the deal, and obviously Salvesen prefers going to Bodø Glimt. And I can just tell already, just watching him on the field, he looks really happy and comfortable in his new surroundings. He looks like one of them signings that's going to hit the ground running straight away. You just sense it, you know what I mean? And he's going to play up front for them. He's got good physique about him. He's got good technique, and he's not the slowest guy in the world either. And apart from that injury last season, he's pretty damn durable. So, yeah, I think he's a really good signing. They've also brought in someone called Nino Zugel from Maribor, I do believe. I don't know anything about him. I think he's a right winger primarily. So it just probably adds a bit more depth for them in that areas. I would like to see them add another defender. I'm not going to lie, because Breda Mu seems a massive injury concern right now. Japhet Seri's not really worked out. And I think they definitely need more depth in defence. Any position, actually, really. Centre back especially. But I would be surprised if they neglect that area of the field before the end of the transfer window. But there's going to be some money in the bank for Bodø Glimt, though, after that European run last season and the sale of several players over the last 2 years.
Yeah, Glimt looking not sure what to say. He's strong. I think it's probably an understatement. I mean, there's that sort of anyone who saw the Michael Jordan documentary. There's that the meme, isn't there? That the result against Linfield, he took that personally, and they've gone on a run and scored 27 goals in the next 5 games. So fair play to Glimt. Let's see where they go. I mean, it'd be fantastic if they could get in the Champions League group stages, wouldn't it, Steve? That'd be really, really exciting. And I think they actually deserve it on the balance of their last 2 or 3 years. They took Milan to the edge at the San Siro during COVID. Smashed Roma. I really feel like they deserve their place in the sun, to be honest, in the group stages of the Champions League. So I really hope they can get through.
I do as well. Like I say, 5-0 against Žalgiris, first leg, that should be done and dusted. And then winner of that faces Ludogorets or Dinamo Zagreb. Now, Zagreb do have history against Norwegian opposition. I do believe they knocked out Rosenborg about 4 or 5 years ago. It was whilst we were doing this podcast, actually. Maybe it was like 3 years ago. And then no mugs at all. Zagreb would probably be favourites. It's a tough place to go. First leg, Zagreb 1-2-1 away in Bulgaria. Ludogorets would be the easier team, but again, not an easy. But then again, it could have been worse. They could have got teams like FC Copenhagen or was it Red Star Belgrade? I think was another one of a possibility. So it could have been harder. I think, of course, it could have been easier as well. But good luck to them for sure.
Yeah, let's move on to. You can catch obviously that game. I mean, it's like you said, it's maybe a formality, but as you say, the next leg will be really fascinating. It's a tough game for them. Let's move on to other results this weekend because, I mean, top of the table we still have Molde. Now they got a winner at Christiansen, which was packed full of drama, wasn't it? But I think you also want to talk about Lillestrøm because obviously Lillestrøm been top for so long, but they're no longer top either. They're just sort of stuttering a little bit. Let's talk about them, how they've been getting on after this weekend's round. They've dropped some points.
Well, they played on the Thursday night against Royal Antwerp and lost 3-1 at home in the Conference League qualifying, and obviously then had to play Tromsø just 3 days later. And I had a feeling that there was going to be a shock result in this game, and it did not surprise me. I predicted the 1-1 draw exactly. It just felt like a tough game. Tromsø are quite good away from home, their tactical setup. And they got themselves a goal, and they generally did a good job in holding on Lillestrøm. Lillestrøm really missed the presence of Akor Adams, the shoulder injury we talked about in the last show, possibly 7 to 8 weeks out for him. It's a massive blow because I just don't think Frid Johnson's as good. Frid Johnson is a useful striker, but he doesn't quite have that X factor and flair that Akor Adams can have. But credit to Lillestrøm, they're clearly not the best right now, but they are grinding out results. They beat Odd away late a couple of weeks ago. And in the 94th minute here, the goalkeeper of all people, Mads Christiansen, who's been the best keeper in Eliteserien this season. If you look at his expected goals conceded stats, as opposed to how many he has let in, he's the best in the league. But he popped up at the other end here. He came up for a late free kick, brought it down on his chest, and knocked it into the back of the net. And I couldn't believe it. He actually won me a personal bet by doing that. And I just added him to my Eliteserien fantasy team this week. So very rarely is it ever a fairy tale ending like that. But I certainly cheered that goal, I've got to say, Jonathan. And so did they. It was a big, it feels like it could be a big point for them. It's quite a high standard at the top of the Eliteserien table this year. 42 points Molde have after 18 games. You might need closer to 70 points to win the league this year. But Lillestrøm just got to do their absolute best to hang in there. I do fear for them. I think they might drop down to 4th, if Rosenborg continue this good form. But fair play, they showed a lot of fight there to come back late and get themselves the draw.
The goal from Christiansen is actually clinical. I mean, he's taken that like prime Chicharito.
Beautiful, isn't it? What a finish!
It's not just like a bullet header like you normally get. I remember my most famous ever goalkeeping header was Mark Poom. Remember him for Derby? Absolute bullet header. I think
Ali Armada at Toulouse. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I was trying to compare them both. I love that one as well.
This from Christiansen is 94th minute. He's received the second ball, chested it down, and just coolly brushed it home on his left foot. I mean, that is some finish and a decent celebration to boot. Bit of a let off, really, wasn't it, for Lillestrøm, really?
Definitely, because Tromsø, I mean, if you look at the XGs in this game, it wasn't that high. I think that was the highest XG moment they had in the game. It was given as 0.54 xG, I think, and rightly so. But before then, they hadn't really created enough. Tromsø defended well in this game. They frustrated them. And Lillestrøm had this problem against Viking a few weeks ago as well. And I do worry about their goal-scoring potential without Akor Adams. But for Tromsø, that's twice now in a week they conceded in injury time when they were 1-0 up. And that's the reason why they are down in that relegation playoff spot right now on 18 points, because they've drawn nine games. They really needed to win that game. But I mean, so they played well. I think draw was maybe fair, but they got away with it. Lillestrøm there. It looked like it was going to be a defeat. Might be a really, really important point for them. They are only 5 points off Molde, and they've got a game in hand. They're 3 above Bodø Glimt still, same amount of games played. They're not out of this race yet at all. I feel personally that they won't win the league, but they want to finish as high as they can. They want to get a medal, and that point will really help them.
Yeah, and the opening goal was from Kitolano. Not sure which one. I mean, they might need to rename them Rabbitolano because they're at it like rabbits, the Kitolano family. There's so many.
Eric.
Yeah, it was a really well taken goal. I mean, I want to ask you, Steve, about Christiansen, because you said he's the best goalkeeper in Eliteserien.
Yeah.
Tell us, for listeners who don't know much about him, I mean, this is, you don't often get keepers scoring, but why do you feel he's the best keeper in Eliteserien? What's been so good about him this season? Just tell us a little bit about him for listeners who might not know him, his age, his profile, his history. Let's hear a bit more about this scoring goalkeeper.
Well, if you want to hear a bit more about him, then go and subscribe to our 10 to Watch on the Patreon channel, because he's on there this season, along with another goalkeeper, Leopold Valstedt. And those two, for me, have been the standout keepers. Andre Hansen's not had a bad year either, in fairness. But Christiansen is very, very good at every single match. You've almost got a factor in he's going to make a reflex save. It's incredible, really. He's such a very solid and dependable custodian. I mean, he's actually improved on the ball as well this year, as you can see with the goal. But he's only 21 years old, and this is a lad who, going into the start of last season, was displaced. He was the keeper for them in the Obostel in the promotion season, but they brought in someone else on loan. I think it was Kranix. To start the season last year, and after 3 or 4 games, Kranix was dropped, and Christiansen forced his way in and stayed in. He caught my eye last year, but he's been even better this year. He's definitely one of the main reasons why Lillestrøm have sort of overachieved this term. And I think he's about, last time I looked, he was like 5 goals clear of his expected goals conceded, which there's not many keepers in Norway that are above that mark anyway, but he certainly is. And I would say biggest strengths is concentration, reflex saves, and positioning. And really, that's what you want in a goalkeeper, unless you're really after an amazing sort of Ederson type, on the ball. Yeah,
6'6", 21-year-old goalkeeper. He's gone viral this week. I mean, there's news articles all over the world about him, from France to Italy, everywhere. There's talking about him in this goal. Definitely looks like one to watch. Decent shout. Out of him and Leopold Valstedt, who's been linked with Villarreal, I believe. Maybe they listen to your 10 to Watch, but out of the two of them, who's got the bigger ceiling in your opinion?
God, I'm going to say Christiansen, because I just think he's probably more mentally stable. I feel like Valstedt is capable of. He's the Football Manager rating for goalkeepers on eccentricity. Valstedt is definitely higher on that. He's got some incredible saves in him, Valstedt. Wow, what on earth are you doing there? But I also think he's got the odd maybe mistake in him, and it's more mental concentration. For me, Christiansen at his age, and there's not much difference in their ages, actually. I think Valstedt might be 1 year older. Yeah, he is. But for me, mentally, he looks so mature, and I really love that about Christiansen.
There you go. As always, you've heard it here first on the Nordic Football Podcast. 2 outstanding goalkeepers, both players Steve called out in, was it March, April? So fair play to you. And it sounds like, both of them are doing pretty well. Let's move on to Salzburg. Because they are struggling a bit, aren't they? And we did sort of talk about them a little bit in recent weeks. You've praised them at times this season. You've criticised them at times. but they're now on a run of 5 straight defeats. So clearly, I don't think you have too much nice to say about them. What's going on here?
And it's 10 defeats in their last 13 in all competitions, and that includes a cup defeat away to Moss FK, who of course are one of their big, bitter local rivals. So this is a worry now. I read some of Stefan Bilborn's comments after this game at Godset. They lost 3-1 against Strom's Godset, and he said at half time I wanted to replace all 11 players. Now, when a manager says something like that, that's very concerning, isn't it? And it almost feels like I'm starting to wonder, is he going to maybe lose control of the dressing room a bit? Because the players aren't stupid. I don't think there's just no plan B here. Plan B here at Sarpsborg. And I feel like surely some of the guys in the dressing room, in the squad, will be thinking, why can't we just bunker down in a game and try and hold out a team and just grind out like a 1-0 win, or even a good draw or something away from home, because they're just far too easy to play against. They're too soft. They're starting to make mistakes now. But you know, the one thing they have done well, they're adding a couple of players into the squad. They've added Victor Torp from FC Midtjylland and Simon Tibbling from Randers. Tibbling was once at Groningen in Holland, and he was touted as a decent potential. Actually, I don't quite know what kind of went wrong there for Tibbling, but they've also brought in a lad called Gustav Morgenson from Brentford B team. Apparently he's recovering from a major injury, but he might be available soon. I know nothing about him at all, but he's a striker. Of course, they lost Jonathan Linseth. They've had a bad injury to Mikael Maigard recently. He's been a key man. I'm a bit concerned about them. I've got to be honest. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Bilborn, that they need a result soon. And guess what? Their next fixture is against Bodø Glimt. So it's going to get worse.
Yeah, good luck with that one. I mean, in terms of expected goals, they're 5th in the table. But they're not 5th in the real table. They're way down, aren't they? Compared to where maybe expectations were. They're 11th. Only 1 point above the relegation playoff as well. So they've got a little bit of looking over their shoulders to do. 31 goals scored, 31 conceded, 10 defeats from 17 games. I wonder, Tibbling, I mean, just on him, I think he's Swedish, isn't he? He was actually part of our Just Football many years ago, one of our sort of tends to watch. He was very highly rated as a youngster.
He was, wasn't he? He really was.
I believe he won the under 21 Euros with Sweden.
He was touted as a really big thing, and I remember that. Yeah,
we've definitely mentioned him on Just Football in the past. I don't think his career's quite panned out. I remember also the Malmo player, of course, Oskar Lewicki as well. You know, he was another one from that team who was really highly rated at that point and just never quite pushed on in his career. So I think Tibbling could be a good signing. In terms of the transfer window, Steve, what's the situation there? How long is it open? How long the team's got to do business?
End of the month.
I know it's slightly different in Sweden.
They've got until the end of August to do business. And, there's been a few ins and outs so far. I think there'll be a lot more of that. And I think Sarpsborg need to crack on a bit more. If this Morgenson is any good, then maybe he can solve their striker issues, because Mullins is just not a viable option for 90 minutes. In fact, he can do an hour's work, and then he has to come off because I just don't think he's fit enough. He's no spring chicken now. They don't really have any other options for me as a genuine striker. That's the problem. Opseth is always injured, and they've brought back a lad called Abubakar Conte from a loan from Portugal. He hardly played out there. He came on against Godset. Now, he was touted as a decent talent a couple of years ago. Maybe he can do something, but I would like to see them actually get a proper proven quality striker who can give them 90 minutes. But let's see what they do. But the amount of goals they can see, Jonathan, is alarming. And it's not that they don't have the defenders, it's the system. So it's starting to become a really, really bad situation for Sarpsborg now, and they're sliding down and down and down as the weeks go on.
If you were to name one team that needs to do the most business, ignoring the obvious in terms of Christiansen with 6 points, but who are the maybe 2 or 3 teams that you think will need to be most active? Not will be, but need to be.
That is a very good question. I think I just feel like maybe HamKam need to add a couple if they can. I mean, we know resources are not easy for clubs that have just come up, but they've obviously lost Christian Eriksen to Molde. They've got 1.35 million for him. And I feel like they could, if they can, bring in like just 2 or 3 players to bolster the squad depth, maybe a bit of quality as well. So I think they need to, and I think they will crack on now that, they're not stupid. They're going to replace a player like that. I think Arlesund really need to look into the transfer window as well, because they've got to replace Sigurd Horgan, who the top scorer who left to Denmark to Aarhus. But they've also lost Isaac Mata. They brought in John Kitolano from Odd, who was displaced as the left back there. He might not be a bad signing, in fairness, but I think Arlesund need to do a bit of general business certainly in the attacking area of the squad. So I would say at the moment, probably those 2 teams need to crack on. And Tromsø, I've said this for ages, need to get a striker in. It's blindingly obvious. They need to get a striker in. And now I'm actually just looking at a couple of other teams. I'm thinking they need to get business. There's a lot of teams that need to get cracking, Jonathan, in this window, I tell you.
So your main headline one's probably Arlesund and
I would say Arlesund, Hamkam, and Odd actually. And I do need to mention them just simply because they've lost players. It's such a thin squad right now. I mean, they've lost John Kitolano's gone. Joshua Kitolano's on his bike as well. He went to Sparta Rotterdam. And Tobias Lauritsen also went to the same club. Katshi's left. What else? I'm just looking around here. Yeah, and the squad was pretty thin anyway. So they brought in a lad called Thomas Rekdal from Stuttgart, and he had a shocking debut against Bodø Glimt. Just wasn't up to scratch physically, and not the right sort of game to throw someone into, I suppose. But Odd really need to add players, and I guess they will. It's about finding the right sort of blend of player, isn't it?
Odd need to add to get even.
There you go.
Let's move on to Europe.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of exciting games actually in Europe. I've quite enjoyed these preliminary rounds. I know you're a big fan of them in general.
I love them, yeah.
I've even quite enjoyed them this year. What's the latest?
Well, Bodø Glimt 5 is Algiris 0, and it was a bit of a slow start to this game, but then Glimt just turned it on and got a very comfortable win in the end. So we talked enough about Glimt, so I'll move on. Viking had a great result against Sligo Rovers, 5-1, first leg. That one's done, isn't it? Let's be honest. They had a great performance against the Irish team, didn't underestimate them at all, and just played a fantastic game. Really, they should be in the hat for the next round, and I've forgotten who their potential opponents might be. I've looked at the draw, and it's not bad. Molde had a 3-0 victory against Kisvárda, this Hungarian outfit. You'd imagine would progress from there. It was a shame for Lillestrøm. They lost 3-1 at home to Royal Antwerp. And I looked at the goals for this game. 2 were scored by the ex-Roma guy, the Belgium. I always got his pronunciation wrong. Nainggolan, is it?
Roger Nainggolan, yeah.
Yeah, and what on earth is he doing at Royal Antwerp? I don't know, but he looked a bit too good, actually, in this game. So, I mean, you never know. They might turn it around in Belgium, but I did say they were probably the underdogs in that game. So it looks like they're going to be heading out, but... it looks good. Good news for Viking. Good news for Molde. Obviously, Glimt as well. So if we can get through them 3 teams through to the next round, I think Molde's draw isn't bad actually. I think Molde should make the Conference League group stages from here, Jonathan.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good for the region, and I do believe Balik Wisha as well scored, didn't he, for Antwerp? And he was someone that I said on last week's show. Keep an eye out for him. Michel Balik Wisha. He's a good player. Good young talent.
You did mention that name, yeah.
I did. So there you go. But I mean, do you want to read out? I mean, if you've got the results in front of you, do you want to read out the Swedish ones as well while we're there? I know AIK.
Yeah. IK drew 1-1 at home against. I mean, just get the results.
Skandija, was it?
That was it. Do you know what? They're no mugs. Every single year they sort of float around this sort of the latter rounds of qualifying and occasionally make a group stage. And they never seem to get much respect. They're from the Macedonia, aren't they? 1-1 draw. Hassani opened the scoring after 1 minute for them, and John Guidetti equalised, and it stayed that way. But so all to play for there in that match. Djurgården had another good win, I do believe. Let me just check. 3-1 victory away to Sepsi. St. George or someone like that. Is that the Romanian outfit? 3-1 victory there for them, which was impressive. Malmo had a comfortable 3-0 win eventually in the Europa League qualifying against Nordjaelland, the Luxembourg side. There was a missed penalty for Molde in that game, I do believe, but they still got the job done fairly comfortably. So if they get through, they should get through the second leg. Get through that, they're guaranteed at least a Conference League berth in the group stage, which would be good for Molde. Malmo. And I think that's it. There's no one else left, is there, from Sweden? Elfsborg got knocked out.
Yeah, just in terms of Denmark, Midtjylland as well lost 4-1 to Benfica, so that looks like it's done. But Henry will maybe be one to speak more a little bit about that. But yeah, no, it's not looking too bad for our teams, is it? I think there's a potential for a few of them getting into this. It's always if we can get 1 or 2 in the group stages, we're pretty happy with that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it was either Djurgården or Viking might be on course to face Steaua Bucharest for a place in the Conference League groups, which I think you'd take that. I mean, they're no mugs either, Steaua Bucharest, but you'd rather that than someone like Villarreal, wouldn't you? Or West Ham, or I think there's a few teams like Colner in there. There's no chance you'd beat someone like that, but someone like Steaua Bucharest, maybe. So I looked, the draws are favourable. Molde definitely have a favourable draw. I can't remember exactly who it was. They're facing someone, potentially a Maltese team, would you believe? There was a Maltese team who drew 0-0 away against someone.
It's not Bruno's Magpies, is it?
No, but I'm trying to find the team it was. But there was a shock 0-0 draw. I'm going to find this now. It's going to do my nutting. That was it. Wolfsberger against Gezira United. Gezira United from Malta, and Wolfsberger only could draw 0-0 from Austria. Now, I think I would imagine Wolfsberger surely get through over 2 legs, right? You never know, do you? But I think Molde would fancy their chances against them or Gezira United.
Well, fair play, and that's the wrap for that. I think we're going to wrap up part 1 in a minute as well. On this note, any other business in Norway? Steve, anything catching your eye?
I think that's it. I just want to say something to Rosenborg fans. I've not forgotten you, and I will definitely be talking about Rosenborg probably in the next episode. They're in good form under Kjetil Rekdal, going under the radar. So don't worry. I'm saving my praises for you. I fully expect Rosenborg to easily beat Sandefjord this coming weekend, and we can talk about a Rosenborg hopefully in full swing. But yeah, apart from that, that's it for part 1, I think.
Great stuff. That's it for part 1. See you after this short break.
Welcome back to the Nordic Football Podcast. I'm Steve Wiss, and I'm with Jonathan Dugbert. We're going to talk about the latest round in the Allsvenskan now. Let's go through the results for you. Norrköping 2, Degerfors 0, Värnamo 0, Djurgården 0, Sirius 2, Malmö 1, a shock result there. Mjällby 1, Elfsborg 1, Kalmar with another 1-0 win, this time against AIK. Hammarby 3, Sundsvall 0. Varberg 0, IFK Gothenburg 4, and then Häcken 5, Helsingborg 0. So how does that affect the top of the table? Well, it was certainly a good week for Häcken, who moved back to the summit. Hammarby gained ground as well, but not good for AIK or Malmö. We'll start with the Häcken result, actually, Jonathan. I saw you tweet something after Sunday's result saying they absolutely have to take advantage of this Monday night match against Helsingborg, and they certainly did.
Yeah, it was after the results from after the Saturday and Sunday results. With the Monday evening game, it was clear that all the results pretty much went Häcken's way this weekend. I don't think they could have asked for a better weekend, except for maybe Hammarby gives Sundsvall. Pretty much every other rival dropped points. Djurgården dropped points at Värnamo. Said this, Malmö lost at Sirius. So this was really a game where, from Häcken's point of view, if they want to be taken seriously for the title, it was an absolute must-win game, really. Home to one of the poorest teams in the league, second bottom. And fair play to them. They didn't bottle under the pressure. I was concerned that they might not be able to deal with the pressure. I thought it might be a trap game for them in the sense of I'm not quite convinced if Häcken can handle the heat of being a title contender, a genuine title contender. Never before won a league in their history. So, but fair enough, they answered it emphatically. 5-0 win, absolutely battered them. And first half was quite even, in fairness. It looks, an even game. The set piece goal from Johan Hammer put them 1-0 up. But second half, Steve, just Helsingborg, let's be fair, they fell apart really. And it was almost too easy. Udenas was electric. He bagged a hat trick, and just really they just carved them open. There was one of the goals was reminiscent of sort of, the Arsenal team of like Wilshere. I remember that goal that Wilshere scored, I think, was against Norwich. That always everyone talks about.
Yes,
it was a bit like that in terms of the build-up play, just popping it around. They just popped it around Helsingborg after they got 2 or 3-0 up. It was nice to see Blair Turgott as well on the score sheet as well. He's settling in very nicely. So big win. They're now the top scorers in the league. They've got 42 goals this season. Comfortably top scorers, in fact, by quite a distance. Still concede quite a few, 25 conceded, but they're 1 point clear now at the top. Everyone's played 17. We're nearly heading into the home straight now, 13 games remaining, and they've sort of wrestled control of this title race. It's their, they'd only won 2 in their previous 4 games, so this was a really important time to get back to winning ways. They'd drawn and lost their previous 2 games before this, so yeah, great result for them.
What's actually remarkable here is they've scored 5 goals and Alexander Yeremiev hasn't bagged a single one. I mean, I can't believe that in itself. But yeah, I did see some of this match later on the highlights of it, and the Helsingborg fans were not happy, were they, at their end? They were like, obviously giving plenty of abuse back. Just seemed really angry, what they can get like. But yeah, a good win for Häcken there. And like I say, there's often this reliance on Yeremiev, but they've done it without him here. Netting, hitting the back of the net. So that must be almost a positive for them.
Well, I think one thing that really riled the Helsingborg fans, just moving on to them for a little bit, is the absence of Anthony van den Herk. Now, it's come out after the match, in fact, and the sort of caretaker managers have basically, well, not caretakers, but the managers now at Helsingborg came out and said that essentially they Van der Herk refused to play, and is trying to do a Mohamed Jayes, I guess, and get a transfer. Apparently, they have the same agent. I don't know if that's true, but I saw that on Twitter this evening. He refused. He's the captain, don't forget, of Helsingborg, and he came out and said, "I no longer want to play for the club. I want to leave." Essentially, so Helsingborg fans on Twitter are extremely disappointed at that, and probably as they entitled to be, you might say. Didn't help their obviously preparations for this game at all. I think there's been a statement out now saying from the managers that he will not play for the club again, either way, because he's basically let the club down. We will talk about the relegation battle later, but I'm a little bit concerned about where this is going for Helsingborg. I feel like they're losing momentum, and the way they really just threw in a towel in the second half was alarming. They've made a few signings in this summer window, reinforced a little bit, looking to kind of maybe get out of this hole that they're in, but they just don't look effective, and their head goes down so quickly when they concede. Don't forget they've only scored 12 goals all season, Steve, and Van den Herk is their main striker. So really a lot of turmoil behind the scenes. I think a lot of anger there with the Van den Herk situation. I'm sure he might have to turn off his Instagram comments, that's for sure, because I don't think he'll be getting many nice things said about him in the next 48 hours. The transfer window ends, I think, on Thursday, so they don't have much time to move him on, but and of course get a replacement. But yeah, in terms of Häcken, they will look very good, I have to say. I still think there's bigger tests for them to come. This was a relatively straightforward match. Obviously, Yeremiev not scoring, much to the frustration of me and my fantasy team because he was my captain. But there you go. There's the breaks. I suppose he's got enough goals this season. But for Häcken now, they've got actually quite a nice run, Steve. They've now got next Mjällby at home, Sirius away, Varnamo at home, Degerfors at home, Kalmar away, before they then play Hammarby in September. Then they got a really tough sort of run to end the season. They still got to play, obviously, AIK away, Malmö at home, EFK away. But if they sort of get 10 to 12, 15 points from the next 15, they could genuinely start to sort of run away with the title. So I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Some of those games are still challenging, but it's opening up for them in a fairly nice way. They've got a real opportunity here to make history.
Yeah, they obviously are doing really well, and that's got them kind of an important win because the last 2 matches they dropped points. So, and also a clean sheet, a very rare clean sheet for Häcken. I think it might just be their second one of the season, or maybe even their first one, incredibly. But I mean, Helsingborg. Just before we do move on to a couple of other teams here, it does seem what is going on at that club, because they're quite a big club. I always perceive them as a big club. I remember covering them the season they won the league up there, and at our old company, Jonathan. But it feels like now they're almost like the Norwich of Sweden. Well, they're not even the Norwich, are they? They don't even win the Super Ret, and they come up in the playoffs. So I don't know. For me, it's not acceptable for a Helsingborg, a club the size of them, that are constantly, whenever they come in the Allsvenskan these days, they're just struggling all the time. I can see why the fans are angry. But I mean, is there a chance they can get the playoff, do you think?
Well, the coach Alvaro Santos came out and said the player who wants it most and is the most hungry plays. And that was his reasoning for leaving out Van der Herk. He played Rasmus Wiedesheim Paul instead. It angered Van den Herk, and it's led to this outburst in this situation. I mean, if you could get yo-yos, Steve, in red and blue, I think they should start selling them in the club shop, because they are becoming a bit of a yo-yo club at this point. And,
yeah.
You know, we're going to talk about relegation battle a bit later, so we won't go too much into it, but they are looking in trouble. Sports manager Andreas Schjelderup came out and said, you know, he hasn't spoken about anything with the manager in terms of who he's going to sell and what they're going to do about this situation. He's been, officially suspended, essentially. It's just not great preparations for this game, really. And obviously they stripped him of the captain's armband. So Van der Herk hasn't really lit up trees this season. He's only got I think 3 goals, 2 assists. When he's meant to be their main man, he was one of the main men for them last season that helped fire them back to the league. I would have thought that he would have left when they got relegated, because he was good enough. He was good enough in the season before. It's almost like he's done the hard part, getting them back up again, and now he's spitting his dummy out a little bit. So strange situation, because they really need someone to put the ball in the back of the net, which they don't have at this moment in time. And just defensively, they're so open. I mean, Thomas Ronje they've brought in from he's brought him back. They've brought him back. Obviously, former EF core man. He's a little bit older now, but he's not really helped shore out that defense. They've lost their fullback Rabi Tsuka. They've brought in a couple of people, and they just didn't look up to the job in this game today. I thought in transition they're just very open. Defensively, just not really organised. I think the midfield balance isn't really there. I mean, Gijovic is good on the ball, but doesn't get it enough. There's real problems, and yeah, like you say, they are in danger of sort of becoming that kind of West Bromwich Albion of Sweden.
Yeah, they certainly are. So moving back towards the top of the table there, incredible to see Malmö as low as 6th in the standings after losing 2-1 against Sirius. IFK Gothenburg have now overtaken them onto 30 points. We'll just talk about Malmö in a minute, but IFK, a great win for them again on Monday as well. It was a heck of a night for the two teams from Gothenburg, wasn't it? 9-0 combined. They won 4-0 away to Viborg. I know you watched this game, and I know you're really, really impressed with IFK right now, Jonathan.
Yeah, they've been magnificent, actually. I don't know how many times on this show I've actually had in the amount of years we've been doing it, 5 years, I don't think I've had many chances to actually praise IFK Göteborg.
No,
to be honest. I've tried my best, but there's not many occasions where I've been able to sort of, I remember that I've had a few rants about them over the years, that's for sure. But I've never actually had too much chance to praise them, so I'm going to go fully into it now. They've been really impressive. Okay, granted, their most 3 recent games they've played a dishevelled Norrköping back to back, and then obviously Viborg boys, who in my opinion, you always have one team that you're just like, what are they even doing in this league? And Viborg are in danger of becoming that team for me in terms of just bit of nothingness kind of thing, like I've said about other teams in the past. Maybe to their credit, I don't want to criticize the Viborg, because they are a small club, really massively punching above their weight, but at the same time they're in danger this season of just kind of being a little bit indifferent, if that makes sense. So it wasn't the biggest of challenges for IFK, I don't think. Their next game is Hammarby at home, and we'll learn a lot about, I think, both teams in that game. That's going to be a cracker. I'd love to be at that game, but at the Gothenburg Stadium. But yeah, they comfortably dispatched Viborg. I mentioned it when they beat Norrköping last week, and I said it on the weekend preview show as well. I've backed EFK back to back now with success. I thought they would win this game fairly comfortably, and they did. Goals from Marcus Berg got 2, Gustav Norlin and Kevin Jakob. I think the keys to this team, Steve, is that youngster Hussein Carneal. I mentioned him on last week's show. I think this is an outstanding young talent we're witnessing in front of our eyes here. I know in Sweden that players don't stick around long. I wonder how long they're going to be able to keep him at this club, because he, to me, is looking sensational. I think he got 2 assists tonight. The first assist, Steve, is just nonchalant. The way he dribbled past half the team and crossed it in for Berg to score. You're witnessing a teenager just tearing a team apart there. I thought he was phenomenal once again. And I know he's highly rated. I mentioned it last week in terms of his background and tough times he must have had in his family, getting to Sweden in the first place, Afghani background, and he's really looking really, really good. I also have to give a shout out to the goalkeeper. I thought Hahn again, Steve, he made an incredible save at 0-0 to deny Varberg, and just in general they're looking solid. That's 3 clean sheets in a row now. It's not quite Bodø Glimt, but they've got 8 goals in their last 3 games, which isn't really an EFK trait. They're not big scorers. And one thing that's definitely going to please their supporters is that they're above Malmö in the table. They're up to 5th. From a credible point of view, they're not out of this title race. They're only 5 points off the top. I don't think it's going to happen for them. They've scored nearly half as many goals as Häcken, but they've also conceded 10 fewer. Not going to happen for them in the title race, but they could probably now start realistically looking to maybe get in a podium place, maybe get in Europe. Because if they can beat Hammarby next week in that game, they might start to really think about how far they can go this season. At the end of the match, Miki Stara, he marched his team to the away fans. EFK Göteborg fans were travelling in their numbers. I think there was 6,000 at the game. Obviously, it's not too far from them. The fans were dancing in the stands. They were loving it. Stara gave a little speech sort of like Phil Brown. Remember him? Hull City sort of gave a little speech in the centre circle in front of the cameras and was ramping them up. Good times at EFK Göteborg at the moment. They're feeling it, and it's nice to see because they've had so many down times in the past few years.
I don't think I've ever seen a Mikkel Stara team play as well as this, and look as good as this as well. They're actually watchable, aren't they, Jonathan? That's the thing. This is good football to see right now, I must say. And they certainly got Varberg a good time. Varberg, whatever result they have one week, they never back it up with another. I don't think all season. I think once they've lost 2 games in a row once, but never on any other occasion have they had the same outcome 2 weeks in a row. So whoever they got next week, you might as well bet on them blind to either draw or win. Simple as that, because that's the sort of side they are. But great stuff for IFK Gothenburg, and fair play. We very much look forward to the Hammarby game, don't we? And they've actually moved ahead Malmö in the table now after Malmö's shock defeat 2-1 to Sirius. And all the talk about from this game is that terrible miss at the end, isn't it? Just when you think Malmö are going to get back on track a bit, sack the manager, get a reaction, they come and sort of lay this egg.
Yeah, they laid an omelette, that's for sure. Poor result, really. Malmö, I think you'd agree with that.
Very poor result because, it's just you expect them to kick on at this stage of the season. Sirius, they're not shocking, but you've got to go and win at Sirius. I looked at the XG for this game. It was like 2.3 against 0.7. So you could say they're unlucky there, but you've got to take your chances, haven't you? And, you can't be conceding 2 goals at this stage of a season against someone like Sirius.
But yeah, in terms of the Sirius Malmö, the thing with this game was that Malmö actually took the lead. Joe Inge Birgit, and it was a nice ball from Zidane. And I really felt like from there they would just go on and dominate and get a comfortable win. I didn't see it coming really, but Mathisen and Kouakou took his goal fantastically, by the way. It was really well taken. Sirius have this in them. They can tend to give teams a bloody nose at times. And, sometimes we write them off. In the weekend preview show, I thought this would be a straightforward win for Malmö, I have to say. But it wasn't to be. And Sirius, in fairness to them, were were fairly good value for this winner, I thought, in the end. As I say, that Kouakou was good. Matisse, I thought, had a good game. It just kind of started to. Once Malmö scored the first goal, it was almost as if they thought, well, we're going to win this easily, and they just started to let Sirius come onto them, and you can't really do that against Sirius. They've got good ball playing midfielders and forwards. They can pop it around a bit, and they're not a team you want to let get. Once you let Sirius get in their rhythm, that they can actually be quite a good team. Their manager likes that kind of passing style as well. I felt like Malmö just played into their hands. They weren't able to finish the job off. They had a few chances to get something. Berman Savic, one of the worst misses you will ever see. Go back and look on that.
That was an absolute shocker, wasn't it? I've not seen as bad a miss of that for a long time.
If you go on Twitter at Nordic Foot Pod, we tweeted it, go through the timeline. Horrendous misses. It's almost harder to miss than score, to be honest. It's like literally 3 or 4 yards out, open goal.
Do you know what XG that was given on Y-Scout?
No idea.
0.62. And I'm like, it should have been like 0.92, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That means there's less chance than the penalty. That's nonsense.
Like, that was one of the worst misses I can ever remember. It's like, seriously.
Well, this is the thing with expected goals, because how can that be given less of a chance of a goal than a penalty? He's literally right in front of an open goal.
This is where expected goals is very subjective, isn't it?
He's right in front of an open goal from 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah.
A penalty, you've got a keeper to beat. That just doesn't even make sense. To be honest.
It doesn't, does it?
Whoever's come up with that, that's just... If you go and look at that chance and tell me that you've got more chance of scoring a penalty, then I think you need to retire from football, to be honest. But yeah, listen, it was even in terms of possession. In terms of passes as well, it was fairly even as well. 353 passes completed by Sirius, 375 Malmö. So you can kind of get a feel for the game. Sirius had 7 shots on target, Malmö only 3. So it really sums it up. Malmö weren't great. I think with Georgsson in charge, I think they are now probably going to have to intensify their search for a permanent manager. This probably wasn't a great advert for his, if he wanted the role permanently. I'm not sure he does. Obviously, he's their sporting director. I'm sure he's got a lot going on himself. But at the same time, it wasn't the best of adverts for him to maybe put his case forward. And I just feel like Malmö in a worrying spot, because I feel like they're letting this season just get away from them a little bit. So yeah, it's a poor result, but a good result, to be fair, for Sirius. We haven't spoken about them a huge amount this season, but it just showed you what they can do. They're 9th in the table. They won't go down. And fair play to them, because we haven't really talked about them too much, but they are decent at stacking up points. They're above Elfsborg, they're above Norrköping, above Värnamo, who we've praised a lot. So you also have to bear in mind that Sirius are a better team than sometimes we give them credit for.
Yeah, I'm actually just looking on Twitter now on an account called @XG_data, and I follow this guy, or it might be a girl, I don't know. And basically, I think it's another subjective XG thing, and he always puts down the top player expected goals from each match, and Bermancevic only has 0.5 XG combined in the whole game, so he hasn't given that chance anything more than 0.5 either. So I don't get this, to be honest with you, Jonathan. Mohamed Briatore also had apparently a 0.5 XG in this game combined. So, do you know?
Yeah, but Briatore had a great chance, but his chance was nowhere near as good as Berman save. I mean, that's ridiculous to me.
0.5. It's got to be more than that. It's like 0.9. Well,
there was a keeper in the goal for one.
Yeah,
there's no keeper in the goal for Berman save. How it's ridiculous, to be honest. And that's my gripe with stats at the end of the day, in terms of, you can talk about XG all you want, but it is still very subjective in terms of how you decide what is a good chance and what isn't. Because if you watch that Briatore chance, there's no way you can tell me that's an equal chance to Berman save. Even if you said to me he's off balance, he's obscured by a player next to him, it's an open goal from 5 yards, center of the goal.
I know, it's insane. I don't get it. And
strange.
Mohamed Briatore also had an expected assist rating in this game of 0.5 as well. So he had quite a good game statistically in that respect. I know you actually want to talk about him. He's on the agenda for this episode. So I don't know quite exactly what you want to say about Mohamed Briatore, but maybe now's a good chance.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't really want to. I don't think he had a good game. He missed a great chance. It wasn't as good as Berman Savic's by any means, but he didn't look as good. I saw him get a bit of criticism from Malmö fans on Twitter. A few of them said that he's not settling in as well as, for example, Berisha at Hammarby. I think Malmö fans are a little bit impatient. I think there's a lot of frustration there at the season and how it's gone. And I feel like maybe they're being a little bit impatient with Buya Toure. He's not played many games. But yeah, no, the big talking point this week, Steve, your goal scoring goalkeeper went viral. Mohamed Buya Toure went viral. Do you know why?
Why is that?
The crazy adventures of Mohamed Buya Toure. If you've been a long time listener in this podcast, you'll know I've spoken about a lot. Apparently the rumor is that he missed his own wedding to attend Malmö's game against Nordjaelland, and sent his brother instead to get married to his wife. And he basically said, my brother will represent me at the wedding. And it's a funny story, but part of it's trivial, but part of it is also a little bit kind of don't believe everything you read on social media, because, and sometimes this gripes me a little bit, Steve, you always get these little things that come out and go viral, isn't it? You get all these big accounts jump on it, and people who've probably never even heard of Buya Toure in their life I saw accounts, big accounts talking about Buya Toure this weekend, with pictures of him saying he missed his wedding, and the pictures weren't even of his brother, though. I think they were of Buya Toure. And I'm not sure how much research went into it, to be honest. It's just one of those things that people jump on, don't they? Oh, it's a quirky story. Let me tweet it to get some likes and retweets, even though I don't know who the hell this player is or whatever. So part of it was funny, but Buya Toure actually came out and said the pictures aren't of the wedding. He did tweet a picture of his brother and said, I couldn't attend the game because Malmö wanted me to play. So I said that my brother will be my representative at the wedding. There'll be another date, I think, in mind for an official ceremony, but a lot of people tweeted pictures saying that Buya Toure's brother essentially married his wife, which wasn't quite accurate, but funny nonetheless. I guess that's dedication, missing your own wedding to play against Nordjaelland. But it just sums up Buya Toure, crazy world of Mohamed Buya Toure.
How can someone represent you at your own wedding? I mean, I think I probably know a few lads who wish they had sent their brother to get married to their current wife. But
well, the thing is, I mean, you may kiss the bride. What happens there?
Mate, I'm a little bit. You kind of got me with that one, Jonathan. I mean, this is quite amusing, I must say.
It's funny, but I think also pitfalls of social media. Don't believe anything you read from some big account who just suddenly heard of Buya Toure last week, because Buya Toure actually had to address it himself on his Twitter account, because he was like, I've seen all the viral tweets and stuff. So I'm glad he put comments to bed. Unlike his wife.
He certainly is a character, and there's some wacky things associated with this man, I must say. We're not going to be bored, are we, with him back in the league? But where on earth are we going next? I'll let you decide here. We've got a new manager appointed, and there's been another sacking, so I'll let you decide here, Jonathan.
Yeah, I was just thinking about. I was about to Google Buya Toure's incidents over the years. I think wasn't there an incident with Sierra Leone when he said there was a voodoo curse on him or something? Why he didn't play for Sierra Leone?
Yes, I remember that.
He's one hell of a. He's one of my favourite characters. In fact, I'd say in all my time covering Swedish football, for sure. But yeah, fair play to him. But we actually missed the sacking, Steve. It's been a few weeks since we got this one wrong.
We've missed a sacking. A sacking. There's been so many, hasn't there? That don't blame us. Half of the Allsvenskan's been sacked this season.
Yeah, I mean it's my fault. But just 2019, Buya Toure sustained an injury that he claimed was caused by black magic. He said, a curse was put on me that I would get elephantiasis. That was back in 2019.
Is that even a disease?
The reason that he had a toe injury was black magic caused by a physiotherapist that put a curse on him. A bewitched Sierra Leonean medicine woman. But yeah, that's Buya Toure for you. Let's move on. Gibsons have parted company with their manager. Brian Cloughout has actually taken charge of the last few games. So didn't work out. Obviously, at the weekend they've had another poor result. They're rock bottom of the table, minus 27, 43 goals conceded. They're really struggling, has to be said. GIF Sundsvall. This, I think in the season preview, I said I thought they'd have the tools to stay up, but it's just not happened for them at all. Poor result again, losing to Viborg, and they followed that up. They lost to Helsingborg away, and now obviously Hammarby dispatched them fairly comfortably 3-0. Saidi Berisha got his first goal, and then a Forrest Lasso own goal. Yeah, they're in a bit of dire straits. I think Klarhout is taking temporary charge, but again, it's a sort of worrying period for Sundsvall, 4 straight defeats. And on the other news, Norrköping have a new manager, so fair play to Norrköping. It's been announced that Glenn Riddersholm will take over. It's a shame we don't have Henry on at this moment in time, because I could ask him about him. I believe he coached at Nordjaelland in the past. The assistant managers, Anes Mavrak and Vedran Vucicevic, will go back to their assistant managers' roles. They did get a win against Degerfors, but Riddersholm, he actually won the title with Midtjylland. He's coached Aarhus and Sunderska, and let's see if he can, turn their fortunes around, because I did say last week, Steve, that they're sleepwalking towards relegation.
They needed an appointment quick, didn't they, and get it sorted? Yeah,
it's good they've got it sorted. I mean, Riddersholm actually was at one of the games, and he came out and said, "I'm really impressed with the fans since I've been watching the games. I value that highly, especially the away support at Gothenburg. I'm a coach who wants to work together with the fans, and I want to back us in tough and good times. We will achieve our goals together, and I'm very much looking forward to coaching Norrköping." They are a kind of team that has that Danish link, to be fair. They seem to be a kind of Icelandic, Danish sort of representative.
They have links everywhere, don't they?
Swedish football. Yeah, they're very Nordic.
They are, yeah.
Norrköping. But yeah, they got a win against Degerfors, and they can look forward.
Yeah, now we're going to look downwards, because this relegation battle. Now, GIF Sundsvall, by the way, 43 goals conceded in 17 games. That's absurd. I mean, I can't believe that statistic. That is just not sustainable. But, I mean, one of these teams, Degerfors on 11 points, Helsingborg on 10, GIF Sundsvall also on 10 points. Maybe someone else might get sucked into it, but one of them teams will make the playoff spot and will have a chance of survival. And, I mean, they all seem as bad as each other right now. But, I mean, it's obviously very poor down at the bottom of the Allsvenskan. Who, for you, of those three can finish 14th? Or have we got to toss a 3-sided coin here?
Who can finish 14th? Let me think about this. I think GIF Sundsvall are down. To be honest, I can't see them recovering. I'm very worried about them. I think Helsingborg will go. So I think Degerfors can get that 14th spot. Yeah, I think Degerfors have actually done some decent business. I said to you off air that I was tempted on the weekend show to predict Degerfors' Asian handicap. I thought they would win this maximum by 1 goal. And if you actually look at the second goal, Steve, it's ridiculous. It's the 93rd minute. Every single Degerfors player forward, someone hoofs it forward, and it's literally he's clean through on goal the entire half of a pitch. So if you had back that, you'd be kicking yourself, because I couldn't believe it when I saw that goal. Yeah. It's 93rd. I mean, that's just amateur. But Degerfors have shown a few signs in the past few weeks that maybe, I think their transfer business has been relatively good. In terms of the question, you're going to have to, who are Helsingborg and GIF Sundsvall going to sign in this last few days of the window? If they can do a little bit of business, for example, if Helsingborg can get a good striker and keep Djidjevic, maybe, they're only 1 point off it. Maybe they could pick up some form. Degerfors, I think I like some of their players. I think Vukijevic has come into good form in recent weeks, and 1 or 2 others. Can anyone else get sucked into it? I don't think Varnamo will get sucked into it. I think they're too good tactically. Again, they've got a great point against Diff. That I think they're just too good tactically to go down. Viborg they have a knack of picking up points here and there. They don't really win many, but they do get wins on the board. They only scored 14 goals all season, but they've got 5 wins. So they have a knack of picking up points here and there. So really, I think it is a 3-horse race between those 3 teams. Unless something drastic happens, I don't really see anyone else involved. So I do think it is 2 from 3 that go down and 1 stays.
Yeah, it really does look poor down there. I looked at the XG stats for the Degerfors game, by the way, and Norrköping 1.17 against 2.06 for Degerfors, and that kind of sums up Degerfors. They always seem to have a decent expected goals, but they just don't score enough goals. They miss a lot of chances, the Degerfors, don't they? But I suppose if they could start taking them, then maybe the side that can move away from the bottom 2 potentially. But they've got to have someone who can put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, and it's not Nikola Jurgic this season, so they've been, like I say, that for me in the first 10 games they were the worst team in the league by miles. If that had continued, they'd have definitely gone down. I mean, they lost their first 6 in a row, so it's not. I'm not even saying anything bold here. They lost one of those games 6-0, so it's not as if I'm even saying it. There's been a lot of thrashings this season as well, isn't there? There's been a lot of big results in that sense, 5s and 6s. They did start to then pick up a few results here and there. Got a point against AIK. Obviously, the key for them is they're picking up points against their rivals. They beat Gifsensfeld away. They beat Helsingborg at home. And that's going to be key for them because they've got Varberg next. They've got Gifsensfeld at home in a few weeks. And I think that's going to be where it's going to be decided ultimately. I mean, you'd say with Degerfors, maybe they might just have enough to get out of it. Beating Kalmar was a big result as well. But they leak so many goals, it's hard to sort of comfortably say that they'll be fine. So yeah, it's a tough one. I think all 3 teams have severe weaknesses. None of them score enough goals, as we just said there. None of them are even averaging 1 goal a game. So that's never a good sign, is it? In fact, there's a lot of low scoring teams in the league this season. There's more 5 teams in the league have scored less than 1 goal a game, which is really poor.
Very poor.
And they're conceding almost double the amount they scored as well. So it's doubly poor. But yeah, I think it'd be 2 from those 3. Flip a coin, because the thing is, there's only 1 point in it. It can easily change so quickly. If a team picks up a bit of form, who knows?
I'm almost starting to think the wrong team went up because Halmstad, they're absolutely, I think they're nearly 10 points clear in the Superettan. I know I did criticise them a bit last year for their boring play, but they seem to be too good for the Superettan this season. Several other sides still in the mixer, all the way down to 7th, AFC Eskilstuna. I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Ashley Coffey, a friend of the podcast, who I do know has been recently back on the field after some big injury problems. So we wish you well, Ashley, and get scoring some goals, pal. So, yeah, Super.
He played this evening, I think. I think he played this evening.
Yeah, they lost, I think, unfortunately, to Jönköping. But it looks a close battle. Super for Halmstad look clear. But 2nd through to 7th could be anyone. So interesting times. Yeah,
definitely. And I think Halmstad, I quite liked them last season. I know you were well against them, but I liked them. One other last maybe point in terms of the Hammarby game, it was interesting to see Mahan Diaz is back. He got booed by the fans when he came on. He's apologised. He's been welcomed back into the squad. And that was quite an interesting scene, watching him getting booed as he warmed up. It was almost like a Game of Thrones, public flogging type thing, the way they kind of paraded him in front of the fans to get booed. But yeah, I think, it's going to be an exciting end to the season. I think there's a lot to be played for at both ends of the table. So we've got a lot to look forward to.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for this particular episode, Jonathan, unless you've got anything else to add.
Nope.
Done and dusted and in the bag then. So that is all from us here. Please do remember to follow us on the socials if you've not already, at Nordic Footpod, at Meatman Soccer, and at JF Football, and Henry as well at Football in DK. What else? Thanks very much for any of you supporting us on Patreon. I hope you're enjoying the content on there. Hope everyone's enjoying these regular episodes at the minute. We seem to have a good little rhythm and routine going. But as always, Jonathan, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to our next meeting together.
See you soon for the weekend preview, I suppose. See if we can keep up our form. We must be nearly over 60% by now on patreon.com/Nordic Football Podcast. So I think we have actually tipped 60% with 4 out of 5 winners. But if we haven't, then let's see if we can get over it this weekend. So yeah, see you soon. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed the interviews as well with Henry. And we'll be back very soon.